I would like to welcome you to a sacred place for a sacred occasion. The Toni Morrison Society Bench by the Road dedication ceremony. Greetings, Chair Lady Braswell and Board of Trustees, Dr. Allen and Cabinet, Toni Morrison Society members, elected officials, clergy, alumni, faculty, Division of Student Success, staff, students, and friends. Today, collectively, we make history. Today, collectively, we advance the legacy of Lincoln. Resultantly, when we place the 26th bench by the road, we honor our ancestors and those not yet born. When we place the 26th bench by the road, we honor two sons of Africa, two sons of Lincoln. When we place the 26th bench by the road, we honor Toni Morrison, the conscience of our community. When we place the 26th bench by the road, we honor our 14th president, Brenda A. Allen, class of 1981, the soul of our institution, one who encourages us each and every day to reimagine the legacy and to learn, liberate, and lead. Finally, when we place the 26th bench by the road, we honor you, our student body. A place for you to take selfies, be lit, sit, rabble, check your likes. I am your family and friends, pontificate, produce, get paid, read, write, and think creatively and critically, liberated from racism and gun violence. The 26th bench by the road, presented by the Toni Morrison Society here today to Lincoln University, is a metaphor for student success, life. Thank you.
Would you be so kind as to bow your heads with us, please? O God, our God, creator and sustainer of all human life, we do bow in your presence, acknowledging you as our God. We thank you for the opportunity, even now, to fellowship together. As we come together for this great celebrative event, we ask you kindly, God, to manifest your presence among us. Help us this day to recognize that we must never forget those indeed who have gone before us, who indeed have left legacies for us to follow. Bless us now. Bless this gathering. We ask it in your mighty name. Amen.
Of sorrow, left in this so wide world, this so wide world, alone. I ain't got no hope, got no hope for tomorrow. I'm trying to make it, make heaven my home. Sometimes I'm tossing, I'm driven, Lord, and sometimes I just don't know which way to turn. I heard of a city, of a city, of a city called heaven. I'm trying to make it, make heaven my home. Sometimes I am exhausted, I'm driven, Lord, and sometimes I just don't know which way to turn. I heard of a city, of a city, of a city called heaven. I'm trying to make it, make heaven my
Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be here with you today. Thank you all for allowing me to speak with you. Everyone that Dr. Lee already recognized, but particularly thank you to Dr. Allen for your kind invitation. Thank you to Lincoln University writ large for this particular event. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sue Walker. I'm the District Director for Representative Chrissy Houlihan. Chrissy cannot be with us today. I know you all realize how hard she is working in Washington, D.C. right now, and the events that are happening there this week and in the days forward. And she knows how hard all of you are working here at Lincoln and recognizes how very important you are to our community. It is a privilege to be with you today to mark this very important occasion of the installation of the Toni Morrison Society bench by the road. As the first degree granting HBCU in our great country, I can't think of a more appropriate setting than Lincoln University. My first encounter with Dr. Morrison's writing was more than 30 years ago when I was in college. Like many of you, I began with The Bluest Eye, and it was a transformative experience for me. I've since read many of her other books. They sit on my bookshelf today, but that was where it began for me. And I think that's a gift, and I think it is the gift of our greatest storytellers, isn't it? They capture us with their words, with their language. They wrap us into lives that aren't our own. Sometimes we are validated because we recognize a piece of ourselves in that shared experience. Sometimes we are challenged by the words on the page because it is unfamiliar and occasionally uncomfortable ground for us to walk on. Sometimes we shift our perspectives, and as a result, we change, we grow. Through words on a page, we develop compassion, empathy, and understanding. We find role models for grit, determination, and perseverance. And truly, that is a gift for us all. Sharing our stories with one another should never be diminished. Through literature, through both the written word and the spoken word, we are able to find our common humanity and bridge divides that are still so prevalent in our communities and in our country. Representative Houlihan frequently speaks of working towards our highest, best use. And I'm so grateful to be here with you today, and so grateful to Toni Morrison for embodying her highest, best use and sharing her gifts with the world. We are all beneficiaries of her wisdom and of her eloquence. To Dr. Allen and to Lincoln University staff, congratulations on this very important day. And to all the fine students at Lincoln University, the future of our country, I leave you with this call to action from Dr. Morrison. Somebody has to take responsibility for being a leader. And I know all the lions out there will do just that. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Andy Dinneman. I'm the state senator from this area, and I'm so proud of Lincoln University, as students, as faculty, as board. By occupation, I'm a professor, and I can tell you that a knowledge of Lincoln University and of its students and of its faculty from the very beginnings is essential to understanding American history and African American history. This is the second bench that has come into the Lincoln University area and come into our district. As you know, and I see Dr. Gooch here, who had written a book concerning the Amos brothers, who had helped establish this university, that at the Hosea Chapel is one of the benches which was dedicated about a year ago. So today, we now have a second bench here for Lincoln University itself. I doubt there are very many other institutions or areas that can say with great pride, 2 benches that they have from the Toni Morrison Society. And that's quite a tribute to all of you as students and as faculty. You know that I had the honor of being on the board here for a period of time, and we tried to make sure that this board is representative of the community and is also very supportive of the financial needs that this university has. This university has always been able to be in the leadership in those moments of time throughout American and African American history. You're fortunate to have a great president in Dr. Allen. Dr. Allen and I work together in Harrisburg not only to make sure that this institution is supported, but also to make sure that its liberal arts tradition continues not only here, but in all institutions of higher education in America. We also I want to congratulate your board. You have a great chairman, and from our local area, the secretary of your board. And listen, Lincoln University has always been great. And with a great president, a successful board working together with support from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you're going to continue to rise and be in the forefront of all institutions in this Commonwealth. So finally, let me say we need to recognize the many graduates of this institution who have been in the leadership, not only of their professions as doctors and dentists and lawyers and social workers and teachers, but who've also been the great advocates for change and hope and opportunity here in this country. We also have to recognize that some of the graduates of this institution became the first leaders in Africa after the end of colonialism, fought for the end of colonialism, and then became the leaders in those countries. And they came from here, from Lincoln University, in terms of Ghana and in terms of Kenya. And finally, let us remember the words of James Weldon Johnson, words that I know generations of Lincoln students and faculty have sung together. We know, and we are committed to do this, to face the rising sun of a new day begun, to march on, until victory is won. On behalf of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, I leave this citation that recognizes this achievement, and it's my pleasure as your state senator to join with you in the march for freedom, in the march for hope, in the march that Toni Morrison represented in her writings, so that we can yet live in an America where we can say to each other, at long last, we're all brothers and sisters, and we have achieved the hopes and the dreams that Toni Morrison so eloquently had expressed. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Lincoln University family, community, Toni Morrison Society, and elected officials. I bring you greetings from the Lincoln University Board of Trustees. Thank you, Toni Morrison Society, for selecting the university to be the 26th recipient of the historical mark called the Bench by the Road, the Bench by the Road. Lincoln University, as you know, is indeed a historical mark in its own right. By way of, as mentioned earlier by my previous presenters, being the first degree-granting institution in the nation, educator of freed slaves, and notable dignitaries of the continent of Africa, who were rooted on these hallowed grounds of Lincoln University. Thank you again for the acknowledgement of our fine institution. Thank you for acknowledging our service to the world by way of this symbolic bench by the road. We cannot and we must not forget our history. Let's celebrate. Hail, hail, Lincoln. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I also want to bring my greetings and welcome to our elected officials. Thank you for being here. Senator Dinniman did not tell you how much of an advocate he is for Lincoln University every February when I go up to Harrisburg to sit in front of that appropriation hearing. And he always makes sure that he calls on me so that I can explain the power of the liberal arts to all of those senators sitting with him so that they understand that job creation or job readiness today is really about strong intellectual and interpersonal skills, and that the liberal arts is probably the best way to get there. So I thank you for your advocacy. I thank you for your continued support. Great friend in Harrisburg. I also want to welcome Chair Lady Braswell, and we have other current board members and other past board members in the office, in the auditorium. Thank you for being here. I want to thank the community for coming out, to walk out and to see some of our alum who live close and some who live far, to come help us celebrate this moment. It's just absolutely wonderful. And I don't want to start my remarks until I also give a thank you to Dr. Lynetta Lee. Dr. Lee still here? I can't see past the lights. It actually, we stand here today for, because of her tenacity. She went online, got that application, got a little feedback, went back again. She understands how important it is for the world to understand the importance of Lincoln in the history of all the things that were important in the writings of Toni Morrison. And so we thank you for making sure that you looked after Lincoln and let everyone else know how important and historical place we are. So can we give her a round of applause? And I could not say anything without also welcoming all of our guests from the Toni Morrison Society. Can you all stand if you're there, just so that we can say thank you for being here? We appreciate you. Thank you, yes. What most people didn't know is that Dr. Carolyn Denard is actually a friend and a past colleague. And what's so important about our relationship, we were colleagues at Brown, but it really was Dr. Denard who introduced me to the Toni Morrison Society, and especially the Bench by the Road project. In fact, as I was sitting and thinking about getting this Bench by the Road, I was taken back to 2008 when I actually traveled and was able to take my mother and my niece and a few other family members to the first placement of a Bench by the Road project when we went to the African slave trade point, a point of entry on Sullivan's Island in South Carolina. And all I remember is all of the participants in the conference that weekend, we were all dressed in white, and we went on down to the little ferry and rode across the water and got to the island. And what's so interesting, there was a shot in the newspaper of everyone, and a friend of mine somewhere else, like in DC, said, "I see you in the crowd." I don't know if to be flattered by that or not, but he recognized me in this crowd in the sea of white. I think the other thing that is so important about that experience for me is just not being a part, not just that I was able to be a part of that historic event, but that was actually the last time I had the pleasure of being in the company of the late and great Toni Morrison. For those of you, and I know those of you in the Toni Morrison Society are really familiar with Professor Morrison and how gracious and beautiful of a person she was. And I was lucky that she was really very close to my boss in two places, that is Dr. Ruth Simmons, and she actually gave me so many opportunities to be in company of such genius. And so as I think back to that first placement of the bench, and I think about Professor Morrison's involvement in that first placement, and I think about that as just being historic in my life and memorable, I will be forever grateful to Carolyn for actually just opening my eyes to that experience and then offering me the opportunity to be there. So I wanted to offer a personal thank you to you for just giving me something that I will cherish for the rest of my life. So thank you very much. I want to also say that Lincoln University will be forever grateful to the society and your decision to honor us with placing a bench on our campus. As many people have said, our institution was founded 10 years before the emancipation of the race, and on land just a few miles from the Mason-Dixon line. So I would like to believe that Professor Morrison would have agreed that there is probably a lot to ponder relative to the people who passed through our land on their journey to a better life. And so there's no better place than to place these benches in places that can conjure up all kind of memories, some sad, but some also hopeful. And we like to think that Lincoln University and the town of Hensonville marks some of the great progress and shows the tenacity that African American people had in this country, even while the majority of our brothers and sisters were in bondage. The permanent home of this bench will actually be in front of the oldest building on campus, and as Senator Dinniman mentioned, two of our great graduates were individuals who left Lincoln and went back to their home countries and actually changed the courses of societies there. So for Nkrumah, who went back to Ghana, and for Ezekwe, who went back to Nigeria, we want to make sure that that bench is placed in front of a structure that is named for that greatness, because as we know, the struggle of African people is one of a diasporan struggle, and not just a struggle of us in of African Americans in America. And so to have that place there to really signify that the struggle at Lincoln University for the legacy of African American people have always been about the diasporan of African people, I think will be really important. We will place that bench in its permanent home in the spring of 2021, once a full historical restoration of that building is complete. And we would like to invite visitors to come from now and on into the future to actually sit and be able to ponder some of that history. So in closing, I just want to say that these that the Lincoln family and people in this university will now have the opportunity to be able to come for years and years beyond, to continue to sit on a bench and look at the impact of this institution on the nation and our world. Our bench by the road for us will serve as a spot for visitors to now and forever come to see the legacy of Lincoln as it continues to unfold on into infinity. So thank you, and again, thank you to the Toni Morrison Society.
On behalf of President Allen, we'd like to ask the Toni Morrison Society, all of the program participants, and Elizabeth Bellevue to please come to the stage so we can unveil our bench as well as the plaque that will face it when it is placed.
Good afternoon. The Toni Morrison Society is proud to present to Lincoln University the 26th Bench by the Road.
You may unveil it, just reach down and unveil it, yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Dr. Muhammad?
Good afternoon, greetings and welcome. I am Dr. Muhammad, Professor of History here at Lincoln University, and it is my honor to present to you the history of the Toni Morrison Society. The Toni Morrison Society was founded May 28, 1993, at the annual meeting of the American Literature Association in Baltimore, Maryland. At the invitation of Carolyn Denard, then an associate professor of English at Georgia State University, 26 scholars and supporters of Morrison's work met in Baltimore to establish the Toni Morrison Society as an official member of the Coalition of American Author Societies that comprise the American Literature Association. With this founding, the Toni Morrison Society became the 41st Author Society of the Association and the 4th dedicated to an African American author. 5 months after the founding of the Society, Toni Morrison won the 1993 Nobel Prize for Literature. With the increased interest in Morrison's work after she won the Nobel Prize, the Society quickly grew from a small body of devoted Morrison scholars in the United States to an international literary society of more than 700 members, whose home countries include Japan, Kenya, Ghana, Egypt, France, England, Germany, China, Canada, Mexico, Brazil, and Australia. Its institutional home is now located at Oberlin College in Oberlin, Ohio. Its officers and board of directors is made up of leading individuals in the academic, art, business, and lay communities who support and wish to enhance the mission of the society. For the past 26 years, the Society has launched an impressive list of programs, including scholarly panels at the American Literature Association meeting, the Toni Morrison Society Biennial Book Prize, the Toni Morrison Society Lecture at Oberlin College, the International Biennial Conference Series, the Language Matters Secondary Teaching Initiative, the annual Morrison Bibliography, the Young Readers Circle, and the Bench by the Road Project, a memorial outreach initiative established to mark those unmarked sites of historical significance in locations throughout the African diaspora. Of the nearly 50 author societies that now make up the American Literature Association, the Toni Morrison Society has assumed a preeminent place in the Academy. Its extensive membership, its public and scholarly programming, and its ability to attract major grants and corporate funding have allowed it to move forward on national and international stages in supporting the teaching, reading, and critical examination of the works of Toni Morrison. We kindly ask that you remain seated until after the benediction.
Good afternoon again. Thank you for reading that history, Professor Muhammad. I would like to say first to President Allen, to elected officials, to the Lincoln administration, to the staff and students, and the Lincoln community and beyond, that we are so proud and pleased to see you here today for this important event. I am Carolyn Denard, board chair of the Toni Morrison Society and co-chair of the Bench by the Road Project. My co-chair of the Bench by the Road Project, Craig Stutman, fell ill yesterday and had to go to the hospital, so he was not able, regretfully, to be here with us today. Craig sends his best wishes for a very successful event. I am pleased and honored today to bring greetings from the board, from the officers, and the members of the Toni Morrison Society as Lincoln celebrates this historic occasion. Toni Morrison loved the Bench by the Road Project and would be very pleased in what we are doing here today. I might add, this is the first bench since her passing. And so this bench, perhaps more than any of the others, has the spirit of Toni Morrison, the legacy, the ethos, the love that she left for us. And we will always remember this bench as a bench where we turned the page and thought of Toni Morrison as an ancestor now, as opposed to someone who was with us as she was for many of the bench placements. I would like to thank all of you who have contributed to this wonderful program today. We plan programs in the society. We know that it is certainly a collective community effort. And so everything from the programs to the music, to the grounds, to the planning that comes before, I want to thank you. And I want to especially thank Dr. Lynetta Lee for leading the efforts to get a bench by the road from the Toni Morrison Society placed at Lincoln University. It is true, she did go online. She had attended another bench ceremony, I believe, and she went online, made the application. She said Dr. Allen didn't know that she was filling out the application. And it was just such a wonderful coming together because, as Dr. Allen said, we were colleagues at Brown together. We had gone to the first bench by the road, and when I saw the application from Lincoln, I thought, wow, what a wonderful full circle is about to happen if we can get this application approved. Her application, of course, outlines Lincoln's history as the first degree granting historically African American college, and that it also had, as a result, a significant place in African Americans' educational history and in the history of education in America. So we are proud today to mark that history, not only for those ex-slaves that came to Lincoln and were educated, but for what they did afterwards. As you know, the distinguished alumni from Lincoln, Thurgood Marshall, Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall, American poet Langston Hughes, Kwame Nkrumah, who we've talked about, and other African leaders. And I just found out 2 nights ago from my mother that I have an uncle, Joseph Coleman, who was president of the city council in Philadelphia, who was also a Lincoln graduate. So I'm especially proud today. Now I would just like to share with you a little bit about the history of the Bench by the Road Project so you know what you are becoming a part of. The Bench by the Road Project is a memorial history and community outreach initiative of the Toni Morrison Society. The project was launched on February 18th, 2006, on the occasion of Toni Morrison's 75th birthday. The name Bench by the Road is taken from Morrison's words in a 1989 interview with World Magazine, where she spoke of the absences of historical markers that help us remember the lives of Africans who were enslaved, and how her 5th novel, then the novel she was speaking about in the interview, served in this symbolic role. And this is what she said: "There is no place you or I can go to think about or not think about, to summon the presences of or recollect the absences of slaves. There is no suitable memorial or plaque or wreath or wall or park or skyscraper lobby. There's no 300-foot tower. There's no small bench by the road. There's not even a tree scored, an initial that I can visit or you can visit in Charleston or Savannah or New York or Providence, or better still, on the banks of the Mississippi. And because such a place doesn't exist, the book had to. Because the Toni Morrison Society wanted to be a place where scholars and readers could, through their engagement with Morrison's novels, remember not only slavery, but also the many important and forgotten moments in African American history, the Society also chose, when it was founded in 1993, a bench by the road as its organizational motto. So the Bench by the Road project extends the Society's mission. And while there have been several notable African American museums built since Morrison spoke in the 1980s, the goal of the Bench by the Road project is to create an outdoor museum that will mark important locations in African American history, both in the United States and abroad. To date, the Toni Morrison Society's Bench by the Road project has installed 25 benches along with accompanying historic plaques at sites across the United States, in Europe, and in the Caribbean. These symbolic markers are meant to be publicly acknowledge the many stories of tragedy and triumph within the African American and African diasporic past, from the struggles to overcome slavery and segregation, to the spirit of African American agency and innovation, to the insistence on being dignified and hallowed grounds, insistence on dignified and hallowed grounds for their burials. From the placement of the first bench at Sullivan's Island, South Carolina, to today's 26th bench here at Lincoln University, the Toni Morrison Society's Bench by the Road project has intentionally set out to reimagine the cultural landscape of public memorial making and commemoration. Benches have been placed in significant sites of memory, such as Sullivan's Island, in Paris, France, in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, in Oberlin, Ohio, in Fort-de-France, Martinique, in Nyack, New York, in Hensonville at Hosanna AMUP Church. You already know about that. You're already part of this circle of remembrance, and we're so happy to extend it today. We played benches at Walden Woods in Concord, Massachusetts, in Adrian, Michigan, at the Schomburg Center, at the Schomburg Center for Black Research in New York, at the Library of Congress in D.C., at Frederick Douglass's home in New Bedford, Massachusetts, and most recently at Toni Morrison's alma mater, Howard University. So today, the Toni Morrison Society is pleased to place the 26th bench by the road to commemorate the distinguished history of Lincoln University as the first African-American institution to grant degrees, and to be the proud alma mater of Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall, American poet Langston Hughes, and former President of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah. We would like to congratulate Dr. Brenda Allen and Lincoln alums, students and friends, and this entire community on this important and historic occasion. We are deeply honored that Lincoln is joining us in commemorating the rich history of African Americans throughout the diaspora. We are so pleased to have this site now be a part of what we are calling the Global Circle of Remembrance that documents and celebrates the history of Blacks in the diaspora. Congratulations from all of us from the Toni Morrison Society on the placement of this 26th bench by the road at Lincoln University.
Tell me, where is the road I can call my own, that I left, that I lost so long ago? All these years I have wandered, oh, when will I know? There's a way, there's a road that will lead me home. After wind, after rain, when the dark is done, as I wake from a dream in the gold of day, through the air there's a calling from far
Friends, will you join me in prayer this day? Gracious God, creator of the universe, we ask you to help us remember and honor the power of story. We ask you to help us remember and honor the work of Dr. Morrison and the stories that she gave voice to who were voiceless. We ask your blessing, Lord, on our students here at this fine institution, and we join in prayer for the power of their discoveries, for the voices they hear in the classroom, and for the words and the ideas that they themselves will bring forward into the world. May this bench serve as an incubator to large thoughts, to large visions, and to dreams that will better the world for all people. We ask you to be with us, Lord, and bless this fine institution and the bench that we place in honor of Professor Morrison. We pray this in your holy name. Amen.
We would like to thank Lincoln University again for placing this 26th bench by the road on this historic campus. We invite the faculty and the staff and the students to, when it is placed outside finally, to do what all of the benches do, invite people, the community to do, and that is to come in, to sit down, to read the description plaque, and to be inspired. It is a pensive moment, it is an inviting moment, and we hope that you will take advantage of it. Now will you please join me in reciting what is on the bottom of page 3 in your program. It is the declaration that we like to make after a bench has been placed. Toni Morrison made the call, and this is the response. There is now a new place, please join me. There is now a new place here where you or I can go to think about or not think about, to summon the presences of or recollect the absences of those who were enslaved. There is now something new here that reminds us of the ones who made the journey and of those who did not make it. There is now another suitable memorial. There is now a bench by the road. Thank you.
Will you receive this benediction? We are called as a people to remember that which has been forgotten. God who called the people Israel to remember that they were bound as slaves, that they were oppressed in the exile and flung into the diaspora. God of us all, who sees us as we remember. God who has seen our ancestors who have gone before us, even when they remained unseen by others. Toni Morrison, who wrote that water has a perfect memory and is forever trying to get back to where it is. Brothers and sisters, may you be blessed as a people who embody and vivify that living history. May you, like living water and perfect memory, be strengthened by the legacies of those who have gone before, liberated by the oppression of today, and lead into God's future. Amen.
That concludes our program. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Invited guests, you are invited next door for a small reception.